So in order to achieve something, you first need to be able to affirm it of yourself. First, you need to be able to imagine that you already are there. What if there are things we never had the opportunity to learn? We've all been to school or training, but there are things they never taught us that actually make a powerful difference in life. I'm here to share with you all the pieces you've been missing: mindset, health, success, and more. And we'll all learn together from guests along the way. We may not have learned it the traditional way, but oh my goodness, let's keep learning how to do things differently. OMG, hello, my friends. Here we are, and I am super excited about the topic today. This is one of my favorite things to talk about, and really it can apply to all areas of life. So listen in, because there might be some area of your life that needs a little improving, and I'm going to help you do that. Maybe this should be more than one episode, actually. We might have to come back to this again and again. But before we dive in too far to today's topic, which is affirmations, I also want to make sure that you know about the upcoming masterclass on June 20th and 21st. This will be virtual, 1 hour each day at noon Eastern time. And of course, recordings available to you if you register and can't be there at that time. We are diving into how to stop being your own worst enemy. And you'd better believe that changing what you're affirming to yourself is part of this topic. So we're going to walk through the 5 traps that we fall into that kind of create an enemy out of ourselves. For example, comparison, making yourself feel small, less worthy when compared to someone else. Fear of disappointment, avoiding letting the unknown scary stuff get to you because you don't want to be disappointed. So many traps out there that we can fall into. And guess what? There is a way, and there really are multiple ways, to change our habits of thinking, to climb out of those traps and to be on our own side for ourselves as opposed to against ourselves. So you'll walk away with tools that you can start using right then to change the way you support yourself, and that's life-changing. I will put the link in the show notes, or you can just go to omgteachme.com/coaching and find the link to register. The spots are limited because I do want this to be interactive and meaningful. I'm so excited. Okay, so related to that, today we're talking about affirmations. Affirmations, what are they? You've heard the term, of course. Affirmations are positive statements that help you deal with negative feelings, thoughts, or situations. That's the textbook definition. And that may sound quite simple. Repeating the same sentences, how is that going to change anything around you, right? But research shows that repetition, when combined with emotion, can rewire your brain and change the way you think and feel about things. And that's what changes how you interact with the world. And different energy coming out of you is going to affect different things in a different way. It's kind of amazing. So we're going to dig into that. I know that was quite high level. Affirmations are a way to change our deep down beliefs about ourselves, about what we can achieve, about how life is going, about what's going to happen, all of that. Now, you might be thinking in your head, if you're not already big into affirmations, you might be thinking about Saturday Night Live's Stuart Smalley. And you could go Google it if you don't know what I mean. But I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. That was Stuart Smalley from Saturday Night Live, maybe in the 80s, I'm guessing. And it's funny, but it's also real. So what we want to figure out is, why does this work and how does this work? Right? So I'm going to give you some affirmation tips. You're going to finish this episode and know exactly what to do. But before I do that, I want to convince you that there really is science behind this idea of affirming what you want or affirming something positive. So here's how we learn. We learn in one of two ways. We either learn by a major emotional event, or we learn by constant spaced repetition. That comes from Bob Proctor. Repeating something over and over, it gets absorbed into our brains. So by learning, I mean absorbing something into our subconscious brain, which is the part of our brain that is really directing most of our daily activity, because you don't want to have to actually think about how to breathe or how to put your shoes on or how to brush your teeth. You do these things on automatic pilot because that's your subconscious brain running the show. Okay, so our conscious brain is what's connected to the world around us through our senses. We're taking in input, we're seeing things, we're hearing things, we're touching things. Then we gather that information, we look at it, we might respond to it. You could also think about that as the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for logic and reasoning. Then, when we absorb it in, either through an emotional event or repetition, our subconscious mind contains our beliefs, the things we do all the time and we know how to do. It controls our doing, contains our habits, which you might also hear me call paradigms, that direct our typical behavior. So we don't have to think about it. And that's where a lot of our self-image sits. And we don't necessarily even realize what it is that's sitting in there. But that's what's directing our behavior. So if we want to make a change, then we have to make some kind of change in these habits and beliefs, this learning that's been saved into the subconscious brain, because that's the primary cause of our results. That's where our actions come from. The thoughts that we've saved in there create emotions, which direct our actions, which lead to our results. Okay, so let's go back to learning. I said there's two ways you can learn, meaning absorb into the subconscious mind. One, I said, was a sudden emotional event. Now, think about this. You probably remember, depending on your age, fair enough, you probably remember exactly where you were, who you were with, what you were doing when something traumatic in your life happened. And unfortunately, these events are often negative in terms of sudden emotional event. And it might be a world event. Like for me, I remember exactly where I was when the Challenger exploded. Of course, 9/11. So many different traumatic events that we will just have burned into our brain because it was that sudden emotional impact. Now, there could be good things. Maybe it's your child's birth or your wedding, although that's not sudden. Maybe something funny happened. Maybe it was just so emotional. Unfortunately, these are a little hard to plan and they're often negative. It sticks with us though. Just sit and think about those sudden emotional events you can think about. So that's not a way that we can really rely on learning to happen. We don't want to order an emotional event, and we probably don't want to because they're often not great things. So then we end up with the second way of learning and absorbing into our brain, and that's the repetition. And if you've heard me talk about it before, maybe, maybe not. I used to be a teacher. I was a teacher for 12 years. I've done corporate training as well. I'm teaching and explaining now. So this is something that teachers know very well. Practice, practice, practice. It's the repetition. Practice, describe, show, practice again. This is why, believe it or not, your teachers probably weren't trying to torture you when they gave you homework. I mean, I can't speak for all teachers and all students. Maybe they were a little bit, but I taught math and economics. And if you didn't practice, it didn't sink in, period. There were so many ways to solve the problems and methodologies that needed to become a part of your subconscious brain. That's also true with languages. So if you've ever tried to learn a language, you might know, depending on your experience, that when you submerge yourself in that language, go to a country that speaks that language, or live with a family that speaks that language, you pick it up more quickly because it's more repetition, right? Practice all the time, all the time, all the time. And it starts to get saved deep into your brain, deep into your subconscious. It's that practice and repetition day after day. And I studied in Spain. Spain is one of my favorite countries because of this, for a semester when I was in college. College was a long time ago, so my Spanish is quite rusty now. At that point, I'd been taking Spanish for many years, and I felt comfortable with my Spanish when I went there. And then I was hit with a completely different accent. And if you've been to Spain or you're from Spain, you know what I mean. The accent in Spain is very different than the accent in Latin America. And even, of course, different parts of each country is different. So it took me a little bit of time to get that, but I had practice all the time. I was living with a family that didn't really speak English. I was going to classes in Spanish, and I was trying to talk to my friends in Spanish. So I learned quickly. And when I wrote letters home, because yes, this happened way back when, before, I can't believe I'm saying this actually, before the internet, before email, before texting, before, maybe even before cell phones. I did not have one. So we wrote letters on paper and put them on the airmail paper so that we could mail back and forth. My roommate from back home at Wake Forest told me that my letters started to be half Spanish and half English, and I did not realize that. I wasn't sitting down and saying, oh, let me write a little in Spanish, a little in English. And she had taken some Spanish, so she could read it, and that was fine, but I wasn't consciously doing that. And so if you've ever been in any of these situations, maybe you're starting to understand what I'm describing. Or maybe another favorite example of mine, one of my podcast guests actually sang the quadratic formula song when we were talking about memory. And I unfortunately, right at this moment, can't remember who it was, but that was from repetition. And it was in there in her subconscious brain because her math teacher had them practice it over and over and over. And if I may give you an earworm, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root. Okay, that's all I'll do. But anyway, you might remember that, and it's because of that repetition. So if we see how powerful practice, 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 repeat, repeat, repeat is, now maybe we see that repetition of a statement, an affirmation, some people say a mantra, can be really, really powerful. So the next thing we need to talk about is emotion. So when I say repeating affirmations over and over, constant spaced repetition, as Bob Proctor would say, you might be thinking of just rote repetition. So if I may use Stuart Smalley again, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. Now, if you imagine, let's take I'm good enough, I'm smart enough. What if you every day, maybe in the morning when you get up or at night before you go to bed, say, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough. That's pretty low energy, the way I'm saying that. And it's not very inspiring. And maybe the words will still sink in because we do hear what we say. Words are powerful, but it's about the way we affirm. Now, he on the show was pretty happy. So maybe he had it right after all. He was pretty happy when he was saying that. It's about the way we say it and the emotion that we're feeling at the time. It's not just about repetition. And this is the part that I didn't get at first. Because when I was first learning mindset, you've heard me say that some of these things I just poo-pooed for so many years. When I was first learning mindset, I liked the idea of affirmations. And let's say that at the time, maybe I was trying to build my direct selling business. Maybe I was saying, I attract customers all the time. And maybe I was, reading it on a paper or writing it, or I was just like, I attract customers all the time. I attract customers all the time. I attract customers all the time. It's almost like I'm affirming that that's not a happy thing. I have no emotion attached to it, and maybe just kind of this, I have to do this kind of emotion, which is all speaking to our brains and telling our brains, well, maybe she doesn't want that. Maybe she doesn't believe that. So connection to emotion is key. And I'm going to talk to you about how you can do that. So bear with me. We're going to talk about that. A few years ago, I was struggling to have enough energy to make it through an afternoon. I didn't feel great in my clothes, and I knew I should be making healthier choices. I just didn't know how to do that. I didn't want to count calories or count anything, and I didn't want to follow something so strict that I would end up cheating. Thank goodness I found a 30-day reset that taught me how to eat for my body so I could feel my best. If you'd like to check that out too, head over to omgteachme.com/recommendations and look for the 30-day reset. Okay, so usually affirmations come up when you are wanting to change something in your life. And maybe it's your health, your fitness, business growth, job success, income, money, relationships. You want something and you don't yet have it. Or maybe you're on the way, but you want it to get even better. And that's why I said this could be powerful in any aspect of life, any aspect of life. Okay, so we want something. How do we go about getting it? Well, we need to take action. And I am never going to tell you that all of these other things take the place of taking action. We need to take action. You need to eat well. You need to move your body. You need to work smart. You need to network. You need to learn more. Whatever it is, you need to take action. But the frustrating thing that happens in a lot of cases when people take action because they have something in mind, they want to do better, they want to improve, oftentimes we end up kind of jogging in place and staying kind of in the same place we are today and sort of feeling like we're hitting a ceiling in our success or in our fitness level or whatever it is. And that is what happens if we just grind and grind and grind and take action and take action and take action, but we don't change what's going on in our subconscious brain. We don't change what we believe about ourselves. So where you are today in your fitness, your relationships, your job success, your income, whatever it is, and I'm saying this to myself as well, where you are today is where we see ourselves. So we probably believe ourselves to be at that level of success or at that weight or whatever it is. And if you haven't heard the upper limit episode, which explains this as well, then grab the free mini series at omgteachme.com or go to the link in the show notes and I will go into that further. So are you really believing deep down that you'll achieve the fit body that you want or the income that you want? Or are you still believing that you can't achieve that? Are you allowing yourself to kind of talk about it and say you want it, but deep down, that's not your self vision. That's not how you see yourself. This is what holds us back a lot. And this is where affirmations come in. You can change that deep down paradigm and habit of thinking. It simply takes repetition and feeling and a bit of effort. Because otherwise, and always, what we believe deep down in our subconscious, the self-image that's saved in there, is what will happen every time. No exceptions. So, for example, I can market my coaching and masterclass to you all day and every day and do fun little teasers and have a great program. But if I don't believe deep down that I am worthy of doing that well and having it be a success, or that people really want this, it won't be a success. People won't want it. People won't sign up. You can apply to tons of jobs. You can have a strong resume. You can be a good interviewer. But if you don't believe you're a good choice for the job, you believe other candidates are better and you don't stack up in some way, you will not get the job. And these are hidden things. We don't always recognize it. So when I coach people on these deep-seated beliefs, it is such a joy because when we dig them out and question them and maybe look at them from another angle. Let's take job hunting. I had this conversation with someone recently. What if your education and your job experience is a little different than what you think it should be, what you think the best candidate would have, because you wanted a more varied look at the industry. And that variety and that multitude of different perspectives is your power. That's what makes you even a better candidate. Or what if being different than other coaches and teachers and speakers means you're exactly the right voice for many people out there, and they absolutely will sign up when you offer a course or whatever? What if your current fitness level that you might not be thrilled with is exactly where you need to be to start on the next thing? People's eyes light up, posture straightens. Could that be true? Why did I think it wasn't? Why did I think I wasn't the right candidate or I couldn't do it? Because it was hidden in there. The only thing that's really governing outcomes is the meaning that you give to something, the thoughts, the story that you're telling yourself about it, the thoughts that you have about it, those core beliefs. And we could spin off from here and go deep into the meaning we assign to things and where those core beliefs come from, but I'm going to rein myself in. Maybe we'll come back and do that another time as well. It comes from life experience and generational family stuff and things people said and you misinterpreted and a million different things. So there are some quotes from a writer named Neville Goddard that really speak to this. And here's what he said: "The ideal that you speak and hope to attain will not manifest itself, i.e., will not be realized by you, until you have imagined that you are already that ideal." He goes on to say, "There is no escape for you except by your radical psychological transformation of yourself, except by you assuming the feeling of your wish already fulfilled. Everything depends on your attitude toward yourself. That which you will not affirm is true of yourself cannot be realized by you." And I'm going to say that again because sometimes our brains can't quite process the not, the negative. That which you will not affirm is true of yourself cannot be realized by you. So in order to achieve something, you first need to be able to affirm it of yourself. First, you need to be able to imagine that you already are there. You already are fit and healthy. You already are the VP. You already have the successful business. You already have the great relationship. Whatever it is, you have to be able to see that, imagine it, and build your subconscious belief in it before it can ever actually be true. So when we start thinking this way, limiting stuff comes out, right? Because if we aren't there yet, how do we believe we're there? And how do we feel like we're already there? There's a pattern of thought that's going to come out. It's okay. Notice it. Forgive those thoughts. Try to choose differently. That's what we're going to affirm. And that process actually comes from Gabby Bernstein's book, Super Attractor. She calls it the choose again method. Notice the thoughts, forgive the thoughts, choose differently. So affirmations are about forming a new habit of belief and thought. And if you're thinking, well, I don't sit around just thinking all day. Well, maybe you don't sit around doing it, but you are thinking all day. There's thoughts running through our mind all the time. And one thing that my coach, Karen Mullins, said that I just love, she said, imagine that you are using Jell-O. I think she said paper mache, but I'm going to say Jell-O. And you pour it into a mold and you let it harden into shape. So that's what you're doing with your self-image and your subconscious brain. You're pouring in and you're repeating, and it hardens into the shape of the mold of whatever the thoughts are. You're repeating. Well, what if you poured into a different mold and repeated something else? You can do that and create whatever shape you want. It's about the stories we're telling ourselves. Notice, forgive ourselves, no guilt, no back talk to yourself, choose again. So here's the process. How to do affirmations. This is what I do all the time. It's just so powerful. So we first have to get very clear on what it is we want. And I think this is something that we often skip. And I want you to think about what you want in whatever area you're thinking of. Again, relationship, health, job, business, whatever it is. I want you to think about what you really want. without getting too locked in and focused on whether you know how to get there or whether it seems possible. Anything is possible if we can imagine it. And we don't have to know right now how to get there. We just want to decide, if I had all the resources and everything I needed, what would I actually want in this area of my life? And then we want to write that into statements with present tense and positive words. Present tense is important because we're affirming this is true now. And we're going to try to feel, how do we feel that this is true now? And positive words, as I kind of mentioned briefly a minute ago, our brain doesn't always understand not or can't. And sometimes we end up sort of affirming the opposite of what we think we're doing. We want to feel those statements and then repeat. Repeat, 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 repeat. So let's talk about some examples. If we go with very generic affirmations that just can help, I shouldn't say just, that can help us get up in the morning and feel good about our day and feel worthy in ourselves. And sometimes it's that basic change of how we look at ourselves that's what we need. So here's some examples. I am worthy of success. I am proud of myself and happy to always be myself. I am fit, healthy, strong, and active. Success comes easily to me. It's always working, even if I don't see the evidence yet. That's one of my favorites. Money and clients are flowing to me, or whatever it is that you're wanting. It's easy to find new clients, a new job, great friends, a great relationship. Again, whatever it is that you want. Do you hear how we're saying I am, or it is, or something is happening now? We don't even want to say soon. We want to say now. So when you heard me say those and you thought about yourself saying them, what did you feel? Did your brain argue with you and say, well, that's not true, so I don't believe it? You can say it all you want. Did you get a little bit excited and think, wow, if I could think that way about myself, that would be cool? So recognize that. It's okay. But we want to be able to choose to attach some positive emotion. So we do have to pick carefully on affirmations, because if your brain is really fighting you, let's take the money one, for example, because our brains do fight us on money a lot. Maybe you have a business where you are serving clients, and I'm saying that you should affirm potentially money and clients are flowing to me. Money and clients are flowing to me, maybe even easily. Money and clients are flowing to me easily. Maybe your brain is going, well, not so much. It can't be easy, blah, 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 blah. That's the paradigm talking. And so sometimes we might have to adjust the wording a little bit. We need to be patient with ourselves and work towards that. So, for example, maybe I'm saying I have a top 10 podcast that is loved around the world. We're not in the top 10 yet with this podcast, I'll tell you that, but maybe I affirm that. Or I affirm that my coaching programs are always full. Or I affirm I'm fit, strong, and healthy, and I love my body. Do I believe that? Do I believe it's possible? If I believe it's possible, then the next thing is, if that were true right now, how would I feel? If this were true right now, how would you feel? That's where the positive emotion is going to come from. And you might need to journal a bit about this. You might need to dig into it a little bit. That's okay. You might also need what I call a but affirmation. Dana Wilde in Train Your Brain, the book, calls a transitional affirmation. I'll put the book in the show notes. Maybe you need this type of sentence to sort of transition you there. If it's hard to believe something that is so big is already happening and it's hard to create a positive feeling with that, you can say, I was something, but now I something. That's what I mean by the but affirmation, because you're going to say the thing that you were worried about or felt negative about at the beginning, and then your brain is going to hear but, and that is a flip, a complete switch to the positive. So for example, I was so negative about my body, but now I treat my body well and I'm fit and strong. I was worried about finding new friends, but I know that it's easy to make great friendships. I felt like I couldn't attract clients, but now I know that clients are flowing to me and it gets to be easy. So it's a two-part sentence. You're stating the negative only if you then put the button and counteract it, because it's kind of making your brain feel a bit comfortable with the beginning of that sentence, and then flip. Here's the exciting part. And then you can create some good feeling about that exciting part. Here's the switch. Here's something new. Your brain's going to remember that part. Okay. So first assignment, take some of the affirmations I mentioned, tweak them for yourself. Or if you have affirmations that other people have recommended to you, find them, look them up, Google them. It's all over the place. Write them down, grab some sticky notes, post them around the house, put them in your car, save them in your phone, save them in your iPad, whatever. Consider even recording them with some emotion in your voice, positive emotion, and listening to them. You could use an app like ThinkUp, which is the one I use. You need to be adding the feeling. So whether you're reading them on a paper and then saying them out loud, or whether you're recording them and listening to yourself with feeling, once more with feeling, with feeling, that's affirmations. And it will make a powerful difference in your life. Now, here's a little bonus for you. And I love this piece of advice, again, from Karen. Once you are getting into the habit of affirming, and I would say daily, it doesn't have to take a lot of time, but daily, decide that you're going to look for evidence that your affirmations are true now. These things that you're saying are starting to happen. They're true now. Decide, I'm going to go out in the world and I'm going to see that clients are flowing to me, or I'm strong, fit, and healthy, or whatever it is you're affirming. Decide that you will see evidence now and look for it. Just keep your eyes open. Because our brains have something called the reticular activating system. And what that means is there's so much input on a minute-to-minute basis that your five senses are taking in. There's no way that you can recognize and parse and think through it all. So your brain has kind of a filter system inside where it grabs the input that fit with your basic beliefs about the world and about yourself. That's the reticular activating system. So, for example, when my kids were younger, we bought a green Toyota minivan. It was like a light green. And I thought to myself, well, first of all, I didn't really want that color, but that's what there was. So that's what we got. It was fine. But I thought to myself, I have never seen a car this color. What a strange light green color. And you want to know what happened? After I looked at that car, literally started to happen immediately after, I saw those light green Toyotas everywhere. And that is just one example of many, 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 many. Once you are aware of something, it's in your "this is how the world works" belief, you will see it. So decide that you're going to start affirming what you want as if it's happening now. You're going to add feeling, and you're going to then look for evidence that it's true. Another thing you can do is add tapping while you're repeating your affirmations. That's kind of even more layering in of emotion. So I hope that this is meaningful for you. Affirmations are life-changing. Words are powerful. Add emotion with repetition. This is big, life-changing stuff. I would love to hear about affirmations that have been powerful for you. Find me on social media or on the website. I'm at OMG Teach Me Podcast on all kinds of social media. Find me at omgteachme.com. Tell me what has been powerful for you with affirmations, because all of us could benefit from that. Make sure you go look at the masterclass. Check out all of that in the show notes. I have been so excited to talk with you about this today, and I'll see you soon. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. OMG, did you know that we have mini episodes every Friday as well? Make sure to follow OMG Teach Me in your favorite podcast app so you get all the goodies. And if you're just finding this podcast and you're kind of wondering where to start, I have a curated mini series for you to help you stop self-sabotaging, because we all do it. So head over to www.omgteachme.com and sign up when you get the pop-up box. We may not have learned all these things in school, but they sure are powerful now.